Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everybody. I'll call the Monday, November 28th regular city council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Beauregard.
Here.
Grams. Here. Kramer. Here. Pop.
Here.
Zins.
Here. Everybody, please stand for pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, next on the agenda is consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to go over the items on the consent agenda? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that one.
Motion made by Councilor Kramer. There's support. I'll support. Supported by Councilor Pop. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This goes down to guest and citizen forum. Is there anybody that wants to address the council?
We would like to, or at least I would like to know,
Could you please step to the podium? Give your name and address, and
my name is Sharon Stutzman. I'm the owner of the White Lakes IGA. And my address is 4730 Vermillion Trail, Gilbert, Minnesota. We would just, or at least I would like to know how far you are with the dollar store, if you've signed the lease, if we can stop it, if we can object, what we can do to oppose it.
We typically don't reply during public comment. If you want to reply from the city council, you'll need to be on the agenda itself for discussion. So public comment is for the council to receive that public comment. If you wanted something on the agenda, the next meeting is on the 12th. If you want to have a back and forth discourse.
Okay, I was told to come to this meeting and that you would address my concerns. So that is why I'm here. That's why some of these other people are here. We would like answers.
Okay, the answers I can give you is at this time, the council is in the middle of a negotiation for sale of the parcel where the basketball court is at. The terms of that contract are confidential at this time until such time that it is.
Okay, what's the next step for somebody like me then? Just to, because I've already written a letter about this issue. What can I do?
At this point, the council is moving forward with the contract with the developer for that parcel.
And I know, you did send a letter, an email to us that we read. Is there anything else you want to tell us or share with us about your objection to it, or?
I just think that you should have asked the businesses how it would impact. Because right from the get-go, 30% is what a grocery store loses. 30%. I will not be here. Not to mention what it's going to do to the marketplace. So I just think that there were other things to consider before you even made your decision. That's all I have to say.
thank you.
I'm Bonnie Locke and I live at 230 Andover Road in White Lakes. And I too would like to discuss this issue. The parcel of land has been sold. Is that what I just heard?
The council is in negotiations for the contract to sell that parcel, yes.
I want you to remember back when that piece of land was to be sold to Range Funeral Homes. Now, we all know what happened to Range Funeral Homes. They held 2 funerals in that building. And now it's the police and fire department. Is that what we're going to have? Is another empty building, or are we going to have an empty shopping center? You need to realize that there are businesses in this town that have been here a very long time. Why would you want to bring in another business? And I know it's confidential, just like the funeral home was, who you're selling it to, but I want you to also remember that this town could use something other than a dollar store. If you want to buy something for $1, you can go to Ben Franklin, Masada Drug, and buy something for $1. We do sell dollar products. You are going to run our grocery store out of town. Right now, that grocery store is basically a convenience store because people don't want to leave town to go do their shopping. She has to overprice her products in order to keep her lights on. And if you bring in a dollar store or a Family Dollar, I believe that you are going to hurt this town more than you're going to help it. If you brought in a clothing store, a shoe store, a fast food store, any one of those would bring business to this town, not driving a business out of town. Thank you.
Jenny Erickson, I live at 503 Partridge, and I am in agreement with the people that have spoken already on the positions of the homes. I moved to White Lakes because Mesabi Nugget opened up, and we came over here because of that business. The one hesitation I had to moving here was there was nothing in this town other than the grocery store and the Ben Franklin. There was nothing for my kids, there was no activities. And I was worried that this town wasn't going to have anything to stand on as we went forward. I have talked to other people who have had businesses in the area, and I know they have approached at one point or another to come here, and they've been turned away. And they had wages that would support families, but they weren't welcome. We are concerned because we want to see this town grow. There are a lot of dollar stores, like she said. When you do the research, there's a lot of information out there on why towns don't want them to come in. They come into impoverished areas, people that are struggling economically, and then when they get into town and they drive out the pillars, like the grocery stores and the pharmacies and things like that, then their prices start to go up. When you compare their prices, they seem really good at the beginning, but as you do a comparison and you prorate for volume and things like that, they actually cost more. You don't get your fresh foods, you don't get your fresh vegetables. You get those convenience store items that aren't healthy for people. We have a population of seniors that need healthy, good food. They're not going to get that there. If we lose our grocery store, they now have to travel. When I lived in Aurora, I used their grocery store. I used their drug and variety store. The dollar store and Family Dollar came in, those businesses are gone. They're trying to get back grocery stores, and they're struggling to do that. I don't want to see that happen to my hometown here. I personally shop at the IGA 3-4 times a week because I know how important it is to have that access available. I go and I get my drugs at the Ben Franklin, even though I have to buy a 30-day supply because I want that available to people. It's important. And when you lose those pillars, you lose the reasons for people coming into town. When you look at what this offers, will it draw people into town? What's their reason for coming to White Lakes? We don't have PolyMed yet. We don't have Mesabi Nugget. We don't have things to bring people in. They can get the dollar store in Virginia, but they can also get everything else they need in Virginia. Why would they come here to shop at a dollar store? We're going to lose our businesses that have been part of this community for many, many, many years if this comes in. And when it comes in and we lose them, what's left for our people? That's a very, very big concern. What was the other thing I was gonna say?
Why is it so secret?
Oh, yeah,
Should people know what's coming in town?
when you look on the minutes, it says retail development. And you guys are even saying now you can't tell us any details. But there should be transparency here. We should have a say in what's coming into our town. We want to see things grow the town, but we have no voice. We're coming in after the fact, finding out after the fact. When I looked on the website for the minutes, there was no minutes on what that development is. When we're here in the meeting, you can't officially tell us anything. So how can we go out and do our part to help bring information forward if we don't have the time to locate and give you something in writing? You know, I know we could say we don't want to show favoritism, we want to let people come in who want to come in. But don't we have a commitment to the people that are here that go out in our community when things like the hockey team needs things donated, they're supporting our community. When the parades need money coming in, they support our community, they join in. The dollar stores, their headquarters are in Tennessee. Everything that goes in there leaves. So if our business is closed because they come in, you lose that community support. You lose that connection. The people that are here that want us to grow, they no longer have an outlet because the businesses that we do have here aren't being supported, and things like that coming in are going to drive our things out. So we want more transparency. We want to have a voice to be able to discuss things and provide you with that data and things like that to support our positions. But how do we do that if we don't know what's going on? We want more transparency. We want to be part of these decisions because we live here, we shop here, we work here, we want to get opportunity here, but we have no voice, and you guys are making decisions that affect all of us. So we're upset because we have no say.
Can I address your concern?
Yes,
The initial meeting with the developer was completely open to the public. Site plans were shown, discussions were had, completely open to the public, no one attended.
we
Where
didn't
was that
know.
printed?
All I saw was retail development. It didn't,
All of our meetings are posted on our board as required by law.
but didn't say what it was for.
Yes, or retail development.
But I'm not concerned if, like she said, it's a shoe store, a clothing store, something that is beneficial, that's gonna draw people here. I'm concerned when it's things that are going to drive business away. And there is statistics saying when they come into town, the businesses that would have come in after don't come. It's actually part of the reason there's economic downfall. We can't stand to have that again. We need growth, and I don't believe that this is gonna do it.
Right, thank you. Yes.
So I have a question, I guess, and maybe Becky or council, you could answer. So we had discussed that if the grocery group wanted to meet with the council individually at a special meeting, is that still on the table?
Well, we advised her to attend and speak during public, which she's done.
Right, but I think at that meeting, we said that if she had the option to schedule a special meeting with us or to come to this meeting. Now, I may have heard wrong. I don't know if the other councilors heard the same thing, but I think that's what it was stated. And I think we owe the group that option if they would, if we'd like to schedule another special meeting so we can interact with you, because we typically can't right now because it's citizen concern. We sit here and listen, but we can't interact with them.
Right, so this is all something that's for the audience. So the council's has to abide by what's called the open meeting law. So for example, on the fact that this was something that was actually presented at a public meeting, that was properly posted. The city council, when they have their regular meetings, they have to post a meeting agenda, and it lists what's on the agenda. That's all, that's all there for public consumption. If people are interested in coming to see what the council is going to be acting on, the public has that right. But with something like this, since it's being presented as part of the public forum at the beginning of the meeting, and it's not a specific posted meeting agenda item, the city council, because it's not on the actual, it's not listed on the agenda, the city council can't take any action. Because it's not part of the posted meeting agenda, that this specific item is on the agenda for potential action by the city council. So under the open meeting law, since this is being presented as information that you're sharing with the council, which is absolutely your right and encouraged to do that as citizens of the community, to come forward and share this information. But since it's not part of the posted meeting agenda, the city council we can't take any action to address your concerns here tonight. We couldn't take any official action because we're constrained by the requirements of the open meeting law. So it certainly is the council's prerogative. If they wanted to have this on an actual meeting agenda, they could basically direct place it on a special meeting agenda, call a special meeting of the city council, where maybe this would be the only item on the agenda to have, to have a discussion with concerned citizens, possibly to take action on what their concerns are. So they could do that as a posted special meeting agenda, or they could direct to put it on the agenda at the next regular city council meeting to have it as actually a specific agenda item. The other thing too is the purchase agreement hasn't been finalized. There's, as typically happens with any sort of agreement between parties, there's negotiations that happen, there's an agreement that's proposed, and then parties make counter proposals, they maybe propose different terms. So essentially what's going on right now is a negotiation over terms of a purchase agreement. Now, before that purchase agreement is finalized, it does have to come, a final version of that has to come back before the council. And that has to be approved at a public meeting of the council. And basically the council would have that on the meeting agenda, the final version of the proposed purchase agreement. And then the council would vote whether or not to approve that and to authorize the signing of that purchase agreement. Once it is a final signed document, then it is a binding purchase agreement. It is a binding contract between the city and the purchaser. But that again would be on a posted meeting agenda, and it would be something that would have to be approved at a public meeting by the council. And the council would have to authorize signatures. So with that, I mean, it's really, to answer Councilor Pop's question, you're absolutely right. It's completely up to you. Again, this was being done as part of a public forum. That's why you can't, you're absolutely correct. That's why we can't really take any action or directly address concerns tonight. So you do have the option as a council to either set a special meeting on this with this on the agenda, or to take it up at your next regular city council meeting.
Council, I would like to try to set up a special meeting to address this. We've obviously got a lot of concerned citizens, and it would be a good topic to be able to interact with people on. So as soon as possible, we could set up a special meeting.
Okay, would you like me to coordinate schedule on that?
Sure. Great. And then how will that be posted so these folks will be able to know when that meeting is?
It'll be posted on our public board that's right across near the bathrooms. That's where at least no less than 3 days prior to the meeting, it'll be posted in that location. Typically, but not always, it's also posted online. We're not legally required to post it online, but we typically do get it online as long as there's no glitch.
Again, I'm Molly Logan, 230 Andover Road. I have a question regarding the decision, the final decision. Is that the 7 of you that do that, or do the citizens of this town have a say in it? We elected you to serve us. Do we have a say in your decision?
So the process is the 5 counselors, so Deb, Dan, Dave, Stuart, and Sherry. They're the ones who make that decision, and they are not subject to public comment. So they can make a decision exclusive of any public comment that they receive. The citizens have the right to vote on their elected officials, but the elected officials do not have an obligation to the citizens to in any way unless it was a ballot measure.
Right, so just to address that further, so whether or not to sell real estate in this manner, that's completely within the policy decision-making authority of the city council. They are the elected officials here in the city who have that under state law. They have that authority to make that kind of a discretionary policy decision on whether to sell land for this purpose. As far as do you have a say in it? Absolutely. And you folks have just shared your views on the subject. And that's absolutely your right to come forward and express your views on the subject. And city councilors, when they're making those types of discretionary policy decisions, they take a lot of information into consideration, including the viewpoints of concerned citizens in making the final decision on whether to enter into a final purchase agreement for that purpose. So you have been heard on that. If they do put this on another meeting agenda, you will have further opportunities to be heard. If there's going to be a special meeting on this, and then finally, if and when a final purchase agreement is presented to the city council for final consideration, again, that will be part of a public posted meeting agenda, and you would have a right to come and again at a public forum portion of the meeting, you can express your final concerns on the subject before the city council makes the final decision. So your concerns are heard, but it's one of many factors that the city council takes into consideration in making final decision.
Thank you.
How many new council people are coming on the first of the year?
So we have one.
Just one?
Dan is retiring and
Okay.
Brennan Scott will be taking his spot.
Okay, moving on, reports from staff, city administrator Lynn.
So we are still waiting to hear back regarding some additional information on the Fisherman's Point 2023 manager. I apologize if that is taking longer than anticipated. We are looking to schedule a special council meeting on December 5th at 5:00 p.m. For presentation from marketing firms on the arena and a couple other agenda items. So please, council, let me know if you have any conflicts on that date and time. We did send out a letter to Bow School Property previously. The Minnesota Department of Health called me. They indicated that they were not able to help. The only way the Minnesota Department of Health would be able to help is if they license a business within the facility, daycare, food service, that kind of thing. So unfortunately, the Minnesota Department of Health doesn't have any oversight on the property itself. St. Louis County Public Health and Human Services is investigating the complaint. Carol Hazel has been appointed to that position. So she gathered some information from me. I provided her with our blight officer's phone number. We talked about ordinances and expectations regarding the property, and she did indicate she would get back to me as soon as she had any more information. That's all. There. Thank you.
Public Works Director, Snapsinger Penny.
Yeah, just a quick update on the campground bathhouse project. The general contractor was out there today. They installed the trusses and started on the roof sheathing. They plan to get as far as getting the interior walls done, the doors and windows in, so it's weather tight for the year. At which point the mechanical contractor or electrician can continue to do their work if they so choose. The general contractor wasn't planning on doing any temporary heat to keep working for the winter season, so once they get to that point, it'll be at a standstill till spring.
Okay, thank you. Chief Sewer,
Well, just the agenda.
okay. City Attorney Brumfield,
I'm here, council, just we'll have comments later on some of the items in new business. But other than that,
thank you. Reports from elected officials, Councilor Pop,
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilor Kramer,
Nothing to report.
Councilor Grams,
Nothing to report tonight.
Councilor Porter.
Nothing's out there.
And I don't have anything tonight either. Old business, 10.1 ordinance number 236. Rental registration.
This is the ordinance we discussed at the last meeting regarding registration of rentals within the city. And remember, this is long-term rentals, anything 30 days or longer. The ordinance has been posted as required, and so if you so choose tonight, once you approve it, it will then get published in our legal newspaper and have full force of law immediately following. We did, I can't remember if it's this one or the next one that has a grace period in it. We will provide owners with a slight grace period for 2023 registration, just because it is kind of a tight deadline before January 1st. So if that will be understanding in our office. And we will also set at the next council meeting the fees for this and the short-term rentals.
Do you know how the solid number of how many of our properties fit that criteria right now?
I do not. I am working on a list and for mailing.
So, and yeah, this one does have the effective date of
Yeah.
April 1 of next year to allow that time frame for people to complete the process. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Councilor Cobb to approve. There's support,
I'll support.
supported by Councilor Grams. Any further discussion? Just run this by Mitch. You've looked over this. You don't have any issues with it?
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 10.2 is ordinance number 237 regarding short-term rental licensing.
In similar fashion to the one you just passed, this has been posted as required. It is for short-term rentals, meaning properties for rent for 30 days or less in time period. Again, I don't know of any in town. There used to be one, but the property did sell. So I can't find anything on Airbnb or VRBO listed in town. So we'll be sure to publicize this as required. And so all property owners should become aware of this requirement moving forward.
Okay, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 237?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Kramer. Is there support? I'll support that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. New business, 11.1 Ranger snowmobile ATV invoice in the amount of $1,972.38. Payable to Cruz has bargained for wetland credits on the Moose Trail between Gilbert to Boavic.
This is your final of 3 wetland credits for the Ranger Snowmobile ATV Trail, that Gilbert to Boavic section. Just a reminder, we are passed through for all of these Ranger ATV invoices, so we pay the money out and we get reimbursed to various grants.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Beauregard. Is there support?
I'll support.
Supported by Councilor Kramer. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Ranger Snowmobile ATV trail invoice in the amount of $1,907.50 payable to SEH for engineering services on the 7 Beavers Moose Trail, Boavic to Skyville.
Same fashion as the last invoice, we are passed through to this. On this invoice, it was indicated that there was another invoice billed, a $1,000 invoice that we have not yet received. So I am following up with SEH if they've sent it, where they've sent it to, and if we need to pay it.
So right now, we're just approving or just.
Yep, the
approving the
$1,900.
$1907.50.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Cobb, support,
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Grams. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, Ranger ATV snowmobile. Snowmobile ATV trail service, trail invoice in the amount of $252,128.55 payable to St. Louis County for phase 1. Construction on the Moose Trail, Gilbert to Moab.
After quite a bit of back and forth with St. Louis County and SEH, this is how we are administering the remainder of our DIRRR grant. Essentially what happened is St. Louis County has a really big chunk of money, like $880,000. And they had just been paying out of that for the Ranger ATV and Snowmobile Club. And then we're getting up against the deadline of the DIRRR grant. So St. Louis County has already paid it. They've invoiced us. Now we're gonna pay it and then issue a request from IRRR and then pay St. Louis County. So it seems like a very roundabout way for everyone to get their money, but this is what we need to do to spend on the DIRRR grants.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Counselor Borgard, with support.
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Pop. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 11.4, memorandum of understanding with Ranger Snowmobile ATV Club regarding non-licensed equipment.
As discussed at your last council meeting or 2 council meetings ago, the MOU in front of you outlines the requirements for the city to cover Ranger ATV snowmobile equipment, anything not licensed under the city's blanket policy. Essentially, the city takes ownership of all equipment. Any repairs or maintenance are the responsibility of the Ranger ATV Snowmobile Club. We had just discussed this terms, this just kind of outlines them. I believe Roy received a copy of that. I didn't hear any concerns back from him on it.
Mayor, I do have 2 just kind of just minor language things here. I would like to see added to this under the Ranger ATV Snowmobile Club responsibilities that they'll just commit that or any of their members who are using or non-licensed equipment will be properly trained. In other words, they have their club members who, I'm assuming, get on this equipment and go up and maintain the trails. We should add a bullet point that they commit that whoever they're going to have operating the non-licensed equipment is properly trained to operate it under 1. And then in that last bullet point, where it says will be solely responsible to reimburse city the total cost of insurance in the instance of a loss, that actually should be reworded because I think that defeats the whole purpose of the agreement. The reason we're doing the agreement is so because they can't afford the insurance. So that should be reworded to say something like will be solely responsible to reimburse the city or something like any out-of-pocket expenses incurred by the city, such as deductible costs in the event of a loss. So other than that, so just go ahead and approve it with those amendments. Otherwise, it looks good.
Roy, you speaking for the?
Yep, I am. Roy Beauregard, Ranger Snowmobile ATV Club. So yes, we are totally in agreement that everyone that runs our equipment has to go through a training session. That's happened with me and everybody below me. So that's a total thing. And I agree with the change on that total cost thing.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Counselor Kramer, is there support?
I'll support.
And just make sure it's as amended.
As amended.
amended.
That's okay with you, Deb? As
Yes,
amended?
as amended.
Okay. And
I
Sherry?
would support that contract as amended.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11.5, Ranger Snowmobile ATV Club letter of request regarding parcel number 142-0070-01308.
This is essentially the two flow buildings on the corner of Dorchester and 666. Ranger Snowmobile ATV Club is looking to purchase them from Flow. There are a few requests outlined in their letter. I grilled Stuart a bunch before he submitted the letter, so any questions you had, he was sure to answer in that letter. The couple other things that, as Kenny and I were talking about it, is we would want to, or the council would probably want to request that the Ranger ATV Club commits to repairing and maintaining the current structure. It does need some paint. There's some wooden lean-tos, and that any outside storage is behind a privacy fence. Neither of those things are required in a commercial district, but the council may want to consider that when you look at moving forward with an agreement for the building.
Yeah, so that sums up basically our request is to purchase the building. We've already made Flow International an offer. After they had the building appraised for $180,000, I believe. We made them an offer and they did accept our offer of $40,000. And so we think this is a really good time to make our move to a bigger building. Of course, as fiscal agents, you guys would be, you know, the owners of the building once the purchase is made. We would pay the purchase closing costs, but I'm sure that the city attorney would have to be involved in some way to make sure that, you know, it meets whatever city qualifications it would need. Yeah, and the privacy fence would be a thing we would do. I don't think it would be necessary because with this amount of storage, we would hardly have anything left sitting outside. I think we can get everything inside almost in fact. The other thing is, you know, we would vacate the building we're in now. That would gain the city storage building for the city to use. Yeah, any other questions I would be happy to answer.
So I know we touched briefly on any repair costs or anything that need to be done. Obviously, the roof has been, you know, that could be a huge cost. That's been inspected and you're good on it. Let's just say we had a roof failure. Who's going to cover that cost? The city or?
We would cover the cost for getting the place fixed up and ready to roll, including getting it painted.
So just to be clear, this building would be owned by the city, so it would be on the city's itemized property insurance. So I assume it would be, we would have an MOU similar to as we do non-licensed equipment. We would have to pay our deductible on that, and then the Ranger Club would reimburse us if there was a catastrophic issue like that.
Or we might do, so since this is real estate, we might do a land license.
Yeah.
You know, or we could license for use of.
A lease or something, yeah. Yeah.
And then the purchase agreement, of course, since we're going to be the right owners of it. The Flow would be the seller, of course, in the purchase agreement. We would be the buyer in the purchase agreement, so we would have to just finalize that. But I'm assuming Flow would probably provide us with a standard commercial purchase agreement for commercial property.
Yes, they already mentioned that they would prepare the purchase agreement. So, you know, if it gets to that, you know, you guys would be in touch on how to transfer it to your name or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Crossmo Passion and Kearney have a lease we could utilize with specific terms for the property.
With the tax exempt status, it says it will become tax exempt. Do we have to apply for that?
Well,
It's city property.
it'll be on-
Okay, yep,
So it's
city
already-
property automatically is tax exempt.
Is there any action we need to take on this tonight?
Would you be looking for a motion of support? So you have something on record?
I think what, yeah, you do is basically approve the concept and the outline terms. And then, you know, just authorize that the city attorney's office, city administrator's office can move forward with, you know, looking at a proposed purchase agreement from Flow, and then also a proposed license agreement or similar document with the ATV Club. So if you just you approve the concept and authorize us to go forward on that basis, then we can work on it. And then, of course, any finished product, any final product will have to come back before the council for final review.
Just another thing that was actually number one on my agenda here was to thank the city council and Becky for all of you guys' support that we have had with our as our fiscal agent. It's gotten a little tougher lately because we've got so many big projects going right now. But yes, a big thank you for that anyways.
Okay, is there a motion for support on this?
Take a motion to move forward with the purchase agreement.
Want to direct that to the city attorney and
Do you want me to read a motion for you, Sherry? So a motion to authorize city attorney Burnfeld and city administrator Lammy to review and to provide support of the club in this endeavor.
I will make that motion.
okay, is there support?
I'll support it.
Support by Councilor Pop. Well, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Limit 6. This is Rams nomination. Currently, I am on the Rams board. My term doesn't expire till the end of next year.
Oh, I did review the terms of the nomination, and I believe we are only eligible to nominate one member, and since we already have a member on the board, I don't think that the council needs to nominate or take any action on this item. I can just mark it down as informational.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
11.7 ordinances regarding tobacco product sales and cannabinoid sales.
All right, so poor Chief Suler has to be here tonight for this. I have been reviewing the League of Minnesota Cities website, as well as watching what some other larger cities are doing regarding THC sales in their communities. We cannot prohibit it. The city could, if they so choose, put a 1-year moratorium on sales of THC products within the city, but you are not able to completely prohibit THC sales in your city. Kind of reviewing what has worked in other cities, more than likely, the best avenue to take going forward would be to license tobacco products, which St. Louis County currently does for our city. So we would just take over that licensing from St. Louis County and put in an ordinance of our own, and then also require that any THC store has to also have a tobacco license. So if Dan wanted to retire from the council and go open up a THC store, which I know he's doing, he would have to first have a brick and mortar store, which is part of that tobacco licensing requirement. It has to be a brick and mortar store. It can't be mobile sales. It can't be delivery unless the council chooses to change that in the draft. And then he has to buy a tobacco license. He also has to buy a tobacco THC sales license. So it's a double license for those facilities, which is understandable when we're looking at a new regulation. There are a few questions on this, on these things. They are highlighted in your ordinance, specifically regarding delivery. I did remove that. It's highlighted in yellow and crossed off. If we want there to be delivery, we can add that back in. The other things that were in there is, it did say you could give away tobacco and THC products, so I did remove that. I don't assume you want giving free samples out type situation. But the 3 ordinances in front of you, the first one is updating the zoning ordinance to allow for tobacco products and THC sales in our retail districts. And then the second ordinance in the packet is tobacco and tobacco products. And then the third is THC products. The last thing in there are those applications. The tobacco store application has a background check in it. They submit a background check form. It also requires that they have insurance. That is not included in the THC application, just because if they're applying for a THC, they already have a tobacco license and we already have that information. Chief Sawyer, did you have anything to add?
No, I think I just, again, like we talked about all that, we just want to get the council to start thinking in what direction. As you know, we know THC edibles are allowable, and what do you see our city looking like as far as along those steps? So if we look at it and think about it as a liquor store, type setting, there's selling a specialized product that is now legal and people should have the right to purchase that. It's just where do you think those places belong? It's all that maybe Bonnie wants to buy her house from what we can. But
I want kids playing football
yeah.
in my front yard.
So that's challenge number one is what does that structure look like? I think that we've got good examples across Iron Range. If you look around, what we probably don't want for any tobacco or THC sales and what that does to your community. It's the first thing you see coming into town or the last thing you see leaving. So I think my biggest concern is that if we allow them in the brick and mortar, let's get our standard up where we all expect it to be when we walk into a business and not just let them set up shop in anywhere they want. So yeah, it's going to be on the council on how liberal you want to be with the ordinance. You can be stricter than the state law, and we cannot be looser. So right now, I think it'd be great if we put a moratorium on them and got our feet underneath us like some of the other cities did. But if that's not the direction the city wants to take, there is laws in place right now of what is allowed and what's not. As far as edibles go, I think that's the big topic in the legislative session will be legalization. I don't think we're more than a year or two away from that. And again, where do we want our city to look when it comes to supporting it? We give out 10 licenses in a year, might be a little aggressive for a town our size. Do we have the authority to deny that? Do we have the authority to restrict the number of licenses? Those are some questions that I have. I'm trying to remain fair and impartial and keep my personal feelings on this and present the information to the council as they see it. So trying to stay neutral and understand that I think we won't have a choice but to allow some of them type of businesses to come into our community. Or what do they look like? And the laws and the age is already there. It's pretty standard when you apply for your tobacco license, what age you can sell, just some comments.
So Mitch, if we put a 1-year moratorium on this, are we going against any state law statutes?
No, I think you can do that.
Was there a date that it had to be implemented?
Yeah,
I don't think.
People have to look at that, but this is just presented at this point for, just to get your feedback. I mean, your draft ordinances. I think some of the areas are highlighted just to try to get your feedback on what direction you want to go. If you would think that you want to pass these ordinances and get them officially into the city code, then we can bring back, you can give us that authorization. Some of this would have to be changed. For example, some of the penalty provisions.
Yeah.
We have to clean up some of that language. But we just kind of need your general feedback at this point. You also, as a council, would have the prerogative if you wanted to refer this to a committee to do some more legwork on it and then come forward to the full council with a recommendation. Maybe the committee would be made up of 2 councilors, maybe somebody from planning and zoning, and then the administrator and chief, and dive into this a little deeper and then come back with a recommendation. I certainly can provide a legal support in that regard. Or you can just take it up as a full council and provide us with your feedback.
with nothing on the books, it's one less, they can do whatever they want, is that
Yep.
understand?
That is correct. Within state law.
What, I know we talked about maybe setting how many licenses we would give out in the city, like a liquor license, how many are we allowed in the city right now to give out for liquor license? We have a set cap, don't we?
I believe we do. I would have to do some research.
So we can, it's legal to do something like that, where we have so many liquor licenses, we could have so many THC tobacco store licenses issued too.
Right,
Yeah.
you'd want to remember that you have a gas station and a grocery store that sell, you know, keep that in mind. You also probably would want to make sure that your tobacco and THC licenses match. Because you don't want to be seen as discriminatory against THC, that kind of thing, so, we could definitely investigate doing a cap on licenses.
But any retail currently could apply for this and sell it in their.
You would, I think, since they're licensed already for tobacco, it would essentially be grandfathering them as, you know, for to get the licenses, they would pretty much be grandfathered, and then if you decide how many more additional
Yes.
tobacco licenses would the city potentially be willing to give all this on an annual basis. Because you're gonna obviously, you're gonna put this in a controlled setting in one particular part of town where it's gonna be designated, so. You know, obviously you can, within, you know, establish some reasonable limits on how many additional licenses could be allotted. Or available on an annual basis. You have that authority to accept that as part of establishing these ordinances.
And I just think if we approve anything now, we're just gonna be making change after change after change. I think that, the committee would be good to study a little bit more, get other, you know, others' feedback, on what direction that the city wants to go, so. I certainly support that, if there's any council members interested in, it's basically just bringing something a little more complete into the full council to make a decision.
And then the other thing is, the chief kind of touched on this, but I think the political winds of the state legislature are. I think pretty strong that they're gonna legalize marijuana in the state of Minnesota this upcoming. I would be shocked if they didn't. And it is gonna be legalized in the state of Minnesota probably by the end of the legislative session. The effective date on that might not be until July or August. As far as when, or maybe beyond that, as far as when it goes into effect, but it's very likely gonna happen, and then, you know, that'll change the landscape too. As
Yeah.
far as how that's regulated within each community.
And you'll see that the ordinance in front of you does not specifically say edibles for that very reason, you know, it says any products.
So this, if, once we finalize this ordinance, it would include if marijuana became legalized, it would also.
Any THC products.
Well, I guess what I'm hearing is we should probably set up a committee. Stuart, you're on the planning and zoning liaison.
And I should mention, this was brought to planning and zoning first. They were more than happy with the 2 changes made to the planning expense, so.
And if the committee looks at, you know, the potential for a moratorium, and if that's still something the council can do, the committee can bring that forward as a recommendation too.
Okay, I'd like to add some more research done.
Of course.
So Stuart, Becky, Tim. Committee,
Well, if there's any other councils, I think we could have one more council member that,
I'll be willing to sit on that.
what's that?
So I'd be willing to sit on that. I know it was discussed at our last East Range Public Safety Board. That we would like to kind of keep the same language in both here in Aurora.
Yeah, that's, we're having really good luck with some of our blight ordinances pairing them to match. The cities do look a little bit different as far as geographically, some of the concerns we don't have in blight, we don't have in the hospital and different stuff, but yeah, the more, it's easier out to import when more communities are on the same page.
So, when this committee meets, I can definitely reach out to Aurora and invite them to those committee meetings as well. Everyone's comfortable with that?
I think that would be good. Do we need a motion for that? or-
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we set up the committee, myself, Stuart Borgard, Becky Lang, Tim Sewer. Is there support?
I'll support that.
Motion made by Mayor Zins, supported by Councilor Pop. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 11-8, Walker Drew and Honey audit service contract for financial year 2022.
This is a contract you approve every year. It is a little lower than it was in 2021, financial year 2021, because we don't anticipate that you will have a single audit this year. So that single audit is a little more expensive.
So is there a motion to approve the contract with Walker Drew and Honey in the amount of $28,750?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Kramer. Is there support? Supported by Councilor Borgard. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11-10, AEOA Energy Water Assistance Program.
You missed number 9.
Oh, sorry. Discussion regarding blade ordinance.
Council Pop requested that this be on the agenda. I did put a couple ordinances in front of you. Jordan is also here. Take her away.
Maybe Jordan, if you want to step up to the podium, so. This is kind of what Kim alluded to, was we're kind of trying to keep ordinance similar between Aurora and White Lakes. As Jordan took over the blight officer job over in Aurora, in casual conversation, he had mentioned to me the fact that in Aurora's ordinance, they have that vehicles need to be parked either on an improved surface, a driveway, gravel, whatever, and that's not included in the White Lakes ordinance. And he said it makes his job of enforcement a lot easier. You know, when people tuck a vehicle in the side yard, front yard, and there's grass growing up and out of it and around it, and critters running around and stuff, so. I felt it deemed at least consideration by the council that we look at this, discuss it, that we include in both of the packets. So if you look at the Aurora nuisance order, it comes out of 90.19. Unlawful parking storage, and then scroll down to B, stating that vehicles that are parked or stored outside in the front yard area must be in a paved gravel parking area or driveway area. So Jordan, anything you'd like to add to that, or?
No, I would just like to, see that we can copy that, so both videos are. And so my only concern, I understand exactly what you're saying, the vehicles that are parked outside the house also where the weeds are on, but maybe take an exception in White, which is different than Aurora, we don't have alleys, maybe during that calendar parking or winter period, where if that family needs to plow a spot into their grass, you know, and park for the winter to get it out. So the public works, they're not hindering snowplow. That's the only difference. I think we look a lot alike. I think as we build these ordinances are important, but Point residents with a single stall or single garage, it's tough to get 2 or 3, and you're seeing more and more vehicles and stuff. So, or leave it open and it's discretionary at that point. I know that I think we get into that March, April, and you got 2-foot ruts, and that's not what we're looking for because it takes till July for the front yard to get going in. But just be mindful of that as far as enforcement. And I think that we just look at things on a case by case basis because they do need to be out on the street during the winter for sure. And a lot of people are really good about calling and we'll see what we do. I wouldn't expect you to be out there with the shovel, seeing if they're on an improved surface. But
And I know just for a general information purpose, so I did a drive around a couple weeks ago before we had snow. And there were actually, I counted 48 vehicles parked in people's front yards. And this was at a time when I would have expected most people to be at work or whatever. At that time, I couldn't tell whether that vehicle was operational, non-operational. So today I did a drive around, and there were also 25 vehicles in backyards that I could see from just driving through the yard, and there were 9 front yards that had multiple, up to 4 vehicles parked diagonal each way. So I did a drive around today, there was 35. 6 of them were snow covered, which, so they've been sitting there, probably not moved since the first snow hit shortly after November 14th. The backyard had 18, 8 of those were snow covered. And 7 that had multiple vehicles in the front yard. So, and again, the winter time, I think it's not as big a problem, but I mean, in the summer, when there's ruts this deep, and you know, that's when it becomes, why should neighbors have to put up with that and look at that? And you know, just like all the other blight ordinances, and I think Jordan's doing a heck of a job. And in the term that I've been on the council here in 4 years, it was one of my main agenda items was to try to get somewhere on blight. And I think we've made huge strides. I mean, we've gone through, you're the 3rd blight officer, I think. So Jordan Paulstead started it out, and then Sandy Schumacher, and he took over. So we've, you know, and we've made huge strides. We've got a ton to go, a ton more ways to go. And that was the other reason I kind of wanted to have it on the agenda here. With me not running for council next year, I would like to see one of the councilors kind of pick up and kind of help out with the liaison to Jordan, to be an extra set of eyes driving around. If that's fine with Becky in there. So I think it's something that we need to continue building. You know, we've got a lot of cooperation with him and from weekly meetings, and ultimate number of vehicles that have been towed and cleaned up, but there still are many residences, and it's just a feel for those residences. And well, I've got an next door neighbor whose house is for sale, and you go in their kitchen and look out the back window, and I tell you, I would never buy that house, knowing that every time I looked out that back window, I had to look at the junk pile that was there. And there's a number of residences that are similar to that, and we need to continue to work at it and minimize those numbers and get them down. I know it's not ever going to get to 0, but it's the goal. So just to compliment you too on the work you're doing both here and in Aurora. So thanks.
I could maybe see unlicensed vehicles, but with Point Lakes being an all-season city, it's hard for residents to get a garage parking for their boat, their camper, their ATV, their snowmobiles, and their daily drivers. The Point Lakes lots themselves are almost too small to fit all those things. I'm not sure how you would expect a lot of people in town to be able to get their equipment off the grass.
Right, and by the same token, driving around, many of those residents who did have a slab car laid on each side of their, you know, one side of the garage, and did a double driveway and put another pad on the other side of the house to store their stuff. So it is possible. It's costly to the homeowner, but if it all depends on how much we want to push blight, and I have no problem if the vehicles and the equipment is operable and kept in a neat order and the grass is cut and stuff. But it's the ones that are parked and forgotten about in the back corner, and then the mice and rats are running to the neighbors. So
I just think it could throw in another tool, that's another violation when you're inspecting that property. And then when, you know, it becomes a citation and it does end up in court, it's just a little bit more reassurance that the place is out of compliance and needed addressing. I mean, Jordan gives them a link, lengthy grace period to work with them to rectify it. So I agree. I mean, the houses aren't going any cheaper as we thought here in the last 6 months, and when the property increasing without doing improvements, I think everybody will follow to be mindful and continue to improve their properties, at least with the junk vehicles and stuff they can. The city offers any kind of assistance. If you're unable to move that vehicle, the city has a contract with the local towing company. They'll come in and tow it, and get it out of there. I don't think we've turned anybody down that's needed help to get in compliance. So the goal is always compliance, and if we don't get compliance, we know warnings don't change behavior, citations do, and eventually, I know Jordan's making his third, fourth run through town with some of the same houses that we've all driven by for the last 25 years and shake our heads. So
tonight, this was just informational.
Kind of just informational, maybe if we can work with Becky on how we could try to incorporate some wording in there when it comes to the enforcement end of it, or Jordan can maybe work with Becky on that as to.
So that would be a motion to direct city administrator Lanny and Vlad Karonsky
Yep.
to update ordinance to more closely match the rest.
That'd be perfect.
That's your motion, Councilor Potts, is there support? I'll support that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And 11:10, AUNA Energy Water Assistance Program.
So there has been quite a bit of back and forth regarding the EEOA Energy Assistance Program. We received notification in June of this year that there was this program available through AEOA that for residents to receive help with their utility bill. I had requested information back from them. And I received a policy manual for the program. I reviewed the policy manual and I had some follow-up questions, all of this taking place in June. In November, on November 16th, AEOA finally did respond to some of the questions. However, I still have the remaining questions listed on the form. I'll run through those quickly now. AEOA did not provide the city with a dispute resolution procedure, which is required by the program. I don't know what the terms AEOA would be looking for as far as a dispute resolution procedure. So they didn't provide me a draft on that. We are required to monitor homes for residency. So this means the city must know if someone is living at the property or not for each of the households, which we don't always know if someone vacates the property and just leaves the water on. We are required to monitor the benefit received by each household and report if there are any perceived issues with the benefit or eligibility. So I'm not entirely sure how we would determine if someone should be eligible for the program or not. The city is required to provide information to AEOA or the state of Minnesota in the format which AEOA or the state requires. This may cause significant issues, especially with our Banyan billing system. They are not the most user-friendly. So if the state or AEOA request information in a report format that we don't have, that means we have to create the report in Excel and transfer all the data in manually. We have to update and maintain an account in the eHeat system for households on this program. And this is probably the biggest one. The city would be required to reinstate services for households on this program, regardless if their bill is current. So the program doesn't pay for sanitation services, so that's about 20% of our bill that would not be covered. So essentially a household could have a very large bill still outstanding with the city, and we would be required to turn water services back on. And remember, water services are basically our only recourse when someone is in a bill, is to shut them off. The city council would not be able to deny a payment plan if requested, even if the household has a history of non-payment on service plans or any other reason that they see fit. So right now, if a payment plan request comes in front of the council can take a look at that payment plan and either approve or deny it for whatever reason. If you sign up for this program, you would not be eligible for that. If one of the households requested a payment plan, you would be required to allow that household to make those payment plans. If the council wants me to continue and follow up with the AEOA, I can. If the council wants to approve the program, we can do that. Or if you want to deny the program, we can do that as well. Those are just the remaining questions I have after reviewing the policy information and the questions and answers provided to me by AEOA.
Did this come about because we've had people requesting to be on this program?
Yes, we had in June, we had 2 residents request this program. AEOA called us or emailed us, I can't remember which, asking us to register for it. I said, well, what does that mean for the city? And that's when that back and forth happened. So we do have a couple of residents that have requested it. Ones that have very significant assessment balances, but remember, their water is off now. If you choose to allow this program and go forward, even though they have those very large balances, we have to turn their water back on.
Well, from what I'm seeing, Becky, there's a lot of things that you haven't gotten answers to. As far as the dispute resolution procedure. And how do we monitor homes for residency?
I don't know how we monitor benefit received by each household. So do they just mean this benefit or any state?
No, it'd be this benefit. So if a household was receiving this benefit and we suspected that they weren't eligible for the benefit, we would be required to report that to AEOA. But on what terms would we make that determination?
Yeah, there's just a couple kind of vague. I think we need more answers from her first.
Okay.
And to clarify, so if someone is receiving those benefits, does the payment come directly to the city of White Lakes, or does it go to the resident and then they're?
It comes direct from the state of Minnesota Office of Management and Budget. It's a direct deposit directly from them. So it does come right to the city, but remember, this is for every service except sanitation, so water and sewer. So we would only receive partial payment.
So what happens to if any of these 2 individuals or residents that applied for that have large outstanding bills? Is the city able to recoup that or?
So your current process for recouping those large outstanding balances is twice a year we assess balances, and they're usually about between $300 and $600. So those get assessed to their property taxes, and then when someone pays their property taxes, that's part of that collection, and we get that money back and then pay off those assessment balances for each homeowner that has an assessment. But once they reach their turnoff balance, they get shut off and they don't get turned back on until their current balance due. So that's the balance you see on your postcard you get every month, plus all of their assessment balance has been paid. So essentially a person could have thousands and thousands of dollars in back bills and their water would not get turned back on until all of that money was paid to the city. Under this program, the city would receive a partial payment for that, and we would be required to turn the water back on. We would have no recourse for the parts of the bill that AEOA does not pay. We can't prevent trash pickup back.
I mean, I guess specifically for the 2 people that have requested this, have they asked to be put on a payment plan to try to pay off their dues that they are currently behind on?
No.
Would the remaining balance be continued to add to the tax assessment?
Yes,
So if the house was ever sold, then we would recoup that.
correct. Or if they pay their property taxes.
I think the council has always been very open about if anybody has financial issues as far as paying their water, you can address the council and set up a payment plan, or come down to City Hall and set up a payment plan. I think we've all seen past bills that were in arrears. And there was no, like, our last meeting, we didn't have anybody show up to, try and rectify that situation, so.
And I do want to mention that when I started here, the city had several tens of thousands of dollars in back payments due to you. You're now, just under $10,000. So we've made quite a few gains by holding the line and saying, these are our expectations for our residents. Like you mentioned, we're always willing to work with people and get that payment plan in place. But we do have an expectation that people also pay their bills because we too have bills to pay.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the program in general, I just think we need more answers and I'd rather not do it for an after the fact. You know, like, oh, my water's shut off. Now, you know, reinstate it because I'm not in this program. They could have done this program before it got to that point, or they could have come to talk to us before it got to that point, so. Just a little, you know, I think we just need more answers on it first.
Would you like to table this? Do we get more information?
Yeah, I would recommend just tabling it until she can, Ms. Peltier can answer some more of those questions for us.
Yeah, present motion.
Yes, please.
Counselor Grant has made a motion to table this. Do we have further information? Is there support?
I support that.
Supported by Counselor Kramer. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Counselor Kramer, support. Support by Counselor Border. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried.